Hey YouTube family, you guys know there are a lot of prisoners in the jails that are innocent, some are guilty, and then a lot, I should say, the punishment does not fit the crime. Now here's a story where the punishment does not fit the crime. Willie Simmons, who has spent the last 38 years in prison for stealing $9. He was convicted of first-degree robbery and sentenced to life without parole in 1982. Prosecuted under Alabama's habitual offender law because he had 3 prior convictions, he was sentenced to life without parole and so far has served 39 years. His first conviction was in 1979, grand larceny, and the second conviction was receiving stolen property. He remembered serving about a year in prison for each of those convictions. Today, Simmons is 62 years old. He started to serve his life sentence at the age of 25. Mr. Simmons was interviewed by Beth Shelburne, and he stated that he has turned his life around. He stated that he is studying for his GED and tries to stay away from the wild bunch. He got sobered in the prison system 18 years ago despite being surrounded by drugs and is a firm believer of God. According to Beth Shelburne, Mr. Simmons stated to her he was high on drugs at the time he committed a crime that landed him in the prison system for life. He further stated that he wrestled a man to the ground and took his wallet, which contained $9. He also stated that he was trying to get a quick fix because he was addicted to drugs at the time, and a few blocks away he was arrested by the police. Mr. Simmons also stated to Beth Shelburne that he remembers his trial lasting 25 minutes and his attorney appointed by the state called no witnesses, nor offered him a plea deal, even though all of his prior convictions were non-violent. Willie Simmons is a 62-year-old man from Alabama. He has been behind bars for 38 years for stealing $9. He was convicted of first-degree robbery and was sentenced to life without parole in 1982 due to Alabama's habitual offender law. 3 strikes and you're out. He had 3 nonviolent prior convictions, which is not being disputed. What is being disputed is, does this crime of robbery fit the verdict and the sentencing? Mr. Simmons is now 62 years old. He has been incarcerated in Holman Correctional Facility in Alabama, which is considered one of the most violent prisons in the country. Simmons is not denying the crime he committed that landed him in prison for life. He admitted he was high on drugs when he wrestled a man to the ground and stole his wallet that contained $9. Over the years, he stated he has filed for several appeals without an attorney, and they all were denied. In Alabama in 2014, lawmakers removed the last avenue of appeal for those serving life without parole under the habitual offense law, like Simmons. Simmons stated that he is an Army veteran who became addicted to drugs while assigned overseas. Unfortunately, this seemed to be the running theme with a lot of veterans who come home. They come home addicted, fighting for their country, and instead of when they get in trouble, our government officials or law officials like the judges and the police officers and the attorneys, instead of them fighting for these guys to put them in some type of treatment facility to properly rehabilitate them back into society, they end up like Mr. Simmons with a long prison sentence and no hope. Mr. Simmons further stated that one day he hopes to get out of prison and settle down. So there's much to be said about the human spirit. Even though there seems to be no hope, we keep fighting. In this case, Mr. Simmons keeps fighting. Alabama passed the Habitual Felony Offenders Act in the 1970s to crack down on repeat criminals. It is threatening and overwhelming the state's prison system because a lot of these guys who are being incarcerated are going to jail for life. I must say, not only guys, but women also. Mr. Simmons' last visitor was in 2005, his sister who has since passed away. Other family members do not visit nor put money on his books, according to Mr. Simmons. Mr. Simmons stated to Beth Shelburne that he grew up very poor in Enterprise, Alabama, and started to use drugs at a young age while he was in a high school. He also stated that drug use in prison is very common, and he has tried his best to stay away from any drug use while in prison, and has not received a disciplinary citation in over 10 years. Under the law in Alabama, if someone commits a Class C offense, such as stalking, custodial interference, and criminal negligence homicide. Under the law, if someone commits a Class C offense, such as stalking, custodial interference, and criminal negligence homicide, if they have no prior felonies, they can serve anywhere between 1 to 10 years. If they have 3 prior felonies, then that is 15 years to life. For Class B offenses, such as first-degree assault and second-degree kidnapping, that range increases from 2 to 20 years with no prior felonies, and 20 years to life with 3 prior felonies. Class A offenses, such as first-degree robbery, murder, and trafficking, mandates that if an individual has 3 prior felonies, they should be sentenced to life or life without parole. If at least 1 prior was a Class A felony, life without parole is mandatory. Based on the 2014 change in Alabama's law, it appears that Mr. Simmons has no appeal options left. Mr. Simmons' only option currently is for Governor Kay Ivey to commute his sentence. Currently, there are petitions circulating over the internet about freeing Willie Simmons and a call for Governor Ivey to commute his sentence. The comparison of the sentencings are being made between Derek Chauvin and Mr. Simmons. Derek Chauvin, who murdered an unarmed man, gets 22.5 years, but may only serve 15 years with good behavior for murdering George Floyd, while Willie Simmons, a Black Army vet, is serving a life sentence without the possibility of parole for stealing $9. YouTube family, like, share, and subscribe to this video. and support my channel by hitting the subscribe button so I can bring you new content. Be blessed, stay blessed, and don't forget to be a blessing to someone else.